We are live. Please excuse me as I'm trying to turn some things off. Good afternoon, everybody, and happy uh, Christmas Eve. Can you believe it's Christmas Eve?
Wow,
I know.
time flew, man.
This whole year.
Yeah,
I know.
crazy.
I know. Well, I'd like to welcome my two guests, Billy and Sheba Bunting. I'm very excited to have you two, a lovely couple who call Baltimore home. So, and plus, you guys are social media influencers, content creators, animation filmmakers. So, we have some really great things to talk about, and of course, to chime in on. This particular show, this live stream of ours, will be a little bit different this time because we'll be reacting to some of the hot topic news that really took our attention this year. So it'll be a very short, year in review because so much happened. So much happened. So, but for the sake of time, these are the few that we'll be talking about. So thank you, Billy and Sheba. Thank you very much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. It'll be like a 2 weeks in review, kind of. It's just
I know.
stuff always happening.
I know, but some of these issues have been long-standing issues. For example, the LGBTQ plus debate. That's been something that's been evolving and ongoing, and there's been a lot of pushback on certain issues. So I think I would really, I would love your input on that. So I look forward to that and some other things. So, but before we go, tell folks a little bit about yourself.
You want to go first?
Sure, I'll go. Yeah. Again, thanks for having us, Jeanette. I know this is my second or third time on with you. First time with Sheba, so I'm glad for that. But yeah, we are.
That's right.
Married couple and newly married, I guess. Is it over now? It's year 2. We're about
still
to hit,
feels newly,
we're
certainly.
Still in the second year, but I'm an animator and storyteller and a visual effects artist. My wife is a stand-up comedian, a writer, an attorney, and content creator, and she has her own blog called Sheba Sunday, and it's awesome.
Yeah, if I can make one correction. So this is Billy Bunton, and I'm Sheba Newman Blunt. Actually.
Yeah.
Oh, see, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about modern woman. Okay, so it's Sheba what?
Newman Blunt. Newman-Blunt, which is a nightmare on standardized tests and anything like that. But
you said Blunt, not Bunton.
Yeah. So my name is actually hyphenated. My mom kept her last name. And so me and my siblings are all Newman, which is my mom's last name, - Blunt, which is my dad's last name.
Oh, I see. Okay. So we'll get into why you haven't taken your husband's name, which is one of the topics we'll talk about.
And why my husband hasn't taken my name.
See, that's could be another part of it too. It works both ways.
Yeah.
But it shows a change in our culture, our society. There's so many things happening. So thank you again both for joining me, and let's get started. Let's get on this video here. Let me see if I can not mess it up. All right, our first topic.
Hello.
Can you help me with something here? Anderson Air Force Base, I understand. This is in Guam, of course. Leaders there recently received an official email that prohibited them from using pronouns or descriptors like he, she, youngest, oldest, male, or female. Why is that? I mean, what's going on?
It was an email, from my understanding, that went out locally from one of the commanders there, and I don't remember at what level. I don't know if it was a group commander or the wing commander there. I believe that it was a Facebook post that went out based on a question. It is not the Air Force policy to not use pronouns, and so I think it was a social media, exacerbated by individuals that said that they were directed for that.
There are lots of places now where the workplace has become, I would say, excessively politicized, and so people who have viewpoints, and this also includes I would say, fairly radical leftist viewpoints, people don't feel comfortable at all in being able to use the language of their choice or to have even opinions about a variety of different things.
Pangender, queer gender, gender fluid, cross-dresser, bigendered, gender blender, and the list goes on. And Nicholas, this is where I want to bring you into the discussion because you teach this. You teach trans studies. So if you would, give us a brief primer on so many gender identities that in your view require non-traditional pronouns.
Basically, it's not correct that there is such a thing as biological sex. And I'm a historian of medicine. I can unpack that for you at great length if you want.
So, a lot was said there, as you can see for yourself.
Great
I'm sure.
collection of clips there. That was great.
Good. Everybody's voice, we don't have to agree with them, but there are voices that are out there, and there's pushback. That's the pushback I'm talking about. And so there's the LGBTQ plus community that wants to really widen their base. And that's obviously creating a pushback from the other groups that are rejecting that. And some of the issues are the pronouns. So we hear the military is now considering changing pronouns. So folks will no longer say sir or madam, but there's still some confusion. I believe it's some sort of social media warrior that's trying to do this within the military. So there's still some clarity that needs to come from that. But what are your thoughts on all these changes that are taking place? And the other thing about the LGBTQ plus community that's caused a lot of pushback is the gender reassignments, the transitioning and retransitioning, and the giving young people puberty blockers and things like that. And so we're in a very sensitive area when it comes to LGBTQ plus, even the crossroads of women's rights versus LGBTQ plus rights versus civil rights and so forth. So what are your thoughts, Billy?
Me. I think that, I guess when I first hear that, it was a great compilation. When I first watched the compilation, what strikes me is the way that words are tools for us. Mm-hmm. And I think the entire conversation has to be grounded in a sense that words continue to be tools for humans, and that we are constantly, words and language evolves, and the dictionary has to be aware of and following the trends of human discourse. And I think that what's happening is that we are discovering more and more about the reality of this condition of being here, and I think of human experience. And I think some of the words and categories, the ways we categorize ourselves in the past, are becoming dated, and even the way we talk about things in the past. So I actually wrote something on my site where I talk about even we used to call Harriet Tubman a slave, and we no longer do that. We understand that she and other Africans were enslaved, and so moving it from a noun to a verb points to a broader social structure and the and the oppression and the conditions, and that she's not that word. She is she was enslaved by whom is the question, right? And she was enslaved, and that the truth of who Harriet Tubman was something much more than that word, than that label. And so we're seeing this effort to recognize that truth in a lot of arenas, including in gender, including in race, including a lot of the categories. So it's a messy thing, and there are people trying to help us move the conversation forward, and then there are people, I think, who are intentionally ruining the conversation, more conservative-minded Fox News type people who want to make it seem like this is an attack on normalcy or something. So that's how I see it.
Yeah.
You said that they want to ruin the conversation, and you see it as an attack. Why do you see it as an attack and not a legitimate concern or even fear of not just the language change? I mean, language does evolve over time, but the way the LGBTQ plus community is evolving, it is creating this pushback. So you think it's unjustified? You think they're just creating trouble?
No, I think everything is more complex than that. So we have to look at, there are certain things there's there are fundamental truths about our existence that are true. And I think, like I said, for instance, Harriet Tubman was not a slave. I'm sitting with and speaking to two amazing women. And when I say that, that comes with a bunch of assumptions about who you are. And so I need to call you women because you are that, but I also need to be able to pull back and recognize that you're both incredibly different in your orientation, in your viewpoints, in your experience on life. And so there are people moving the conversation forward. There are people on both sides who are using political tactics. I'm very mindful of forced change from on high. This needs to be something that happens through legitimate efforts to understand each other. But then there will be institutions who will want to publish things and who will want to give their opinions and sort of guide us. But this has always been the case. And so some of it, there are legitimate concerns is what I want to say. But if we come back to what the truth is, that we're trying to understand each other, I think we can move past it and see who's being productive, who's not.
Yeah. Sheba, what are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Yeah, I see that, like, in the past couple of years, and it will keep going, we're all grappling with this idea that, we were all brainwashed as children into thinking whatever is the norm. Whatever we were told is the right thing. And we were told that Harriet Tubman was a slave. And if you think about it, it's because the slave owners saw her as a slave. But if we change the language so that she might view herself as an enslaved person, so it's changing the viewer of who gets to decide what someone is and their identity. And yeah, as Billy was saying, language is a tool for the people that use it to communicate their understanding of the world better. And so we're taught kind of that only a bunch of old white men, Shakespeare, they create words, not us. Anyone who's trying to create words now is being a shit stirrer. But no, we're all really trying to grapple with how to see ourselves. And in the military, for instance, a lot of social progress throughout history starts in the military. And so women in the labor force started in the military, and then it trickled down to other businesses. Black people fighting amongst white people started in the military, trickled on. LGBT people being able to be open in the military started there. Now it's, we're still grappling with it. And this is just another example of that. And I see the military, it says in this article we read about it, it's their goal is to be more inclusive in order to increase lethality, which is the point of the military. They want as many people who their identity is in warrior. So we're not saying he said or she said, we're saying soldier, do it. Because even he and she is an identity. And in the military, they want your identity as soldier. So that's what it's more about, I think, more than the idea that the LGBT are just trying to make us weaklings. One thing about the US military is that we are incredibly good at killing whoever we want to. So I think if this is something they want us to do, it's probably because there's a lot of evidence that it will make us more effective killers.
Oh, killers. Whoa. I know. I mean, which is the truth of the matter.
That's the military. I mean, that is their
conquerors.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry, we had a tree fall on our car yesterday. And so this is my brother who's in the military, actually.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool. Hi, brother.
Oh, my gosh. I'm so sorry to interrupt, guys.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
Oh, no. We set off your alarm. Okay.
How's the car, by the way? Are you guys all good with that?
Ask you real quick. She got the no problem. What's up?
How's the car? How's the
car? The car's doing okay. We just have a big ding on the top on the roof, and thankfully no glass broken, nobody injured.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
So,
yeah,
yeah, sorry about that interruption there.
No worries.
She will be right back. So yeah,
I wanted to ask Sheba. I wanted to ask Sheba about the whole pronouns thing, and women being called cisgender, the whole changing of, how do you feel about it? Do you feel that women are being erased? I mean, we have, Dylan Mulvaney and all these other characters that are really, some way may think are taking over the women's space and almost trying to erase women. Earlier Billy called us women, and even that is a controversial thing to say. Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson couldn't even answer that question when she was being confirmed. When what is a woman? That question, we can't even say that. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel put upon? Do you feel like you're being erased as a woman?
I feel more seen. I feel like it's an expanded, more inclusive understanding of what it is to be a woman. I think before we started this conversation, women were erased. That's why we had to keep having all of these court cases and things to make it so we could get bank accounts without a husband's approval. So we could work in businesses where we could expect that if someone harassed us, we could tell and they would get in trouble. Before it was like, hey, you're lucky to be here, woman. So don't be complaining about how our culture, And so I see it as we have strength in numbers. So if more people are expanded under the inclusion of women, then we have more helpers. We have more resources. Our collective understanding of what women can do expands. We're not just child rearers. That isn't just the natural position for us. We are presidents. We are heroes. We can give birth. We can be boxers. So that's kind of how I think of it.
And Billy, you don't really see this type of activity when it comes to women transitioning to men. There doesn't seem to be a similar clash. It seems like trans men are quiet, on this issue. Do you feel? Would you feel put upon, or would you feel erased if a trans man demanded to be called a man and said, "I am a man"? You know what I mean? How would that make you feel as a biological man? Would you feel threatened, your humanity threatened, or your identity threatened, or how do you feel about this?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, and it's something I've thought about. I'm actually lucky enough to know several trans men.
I was just gonna say you were assigned male at birth. That's what
assigned male at birth. Well,
weren't you?
Yeah, but this is all language that if we don't introduce, you know what I mean? Like, so I think for me, it's very important to separate out man from male. I think that there is a biological thing that we can point to we call male. It's scientific. There's a male physiology.
It's based on your genitals.
It's based on genitals. Sometimes it's based on chromosomal makeup. It's something biological in nature. And then there's a thing called man, which, and in our colloquial, the way we speak normally is very loose with this and fluid, and we don't make this distinction with enough clarity. And I would love to do that. I'm going to try every day to be more precise this way. So for me, the trans men that I know, they can still, some of them can still give birth. And so they are female biologically, and yet they are men in the sense that we have a social arrangement that they are accessing. They're accessing social assumptions about themselves, a legal definition, social assessments and expectations that we very quietly organize ourselves around. And that's the distinction that I think is very important. And once I make that distinction, I no longer have that tension. You know what I mean? I don't feel like I'm being erased at all.
All right.
I see that, birthing people who give birth, certainly in the US, Black birthing people are 3 times more likely to die in childbirth than white women. And in general, women in the US, people who give birth in the US have a much higher mortality rate than other, first world countries, developed countries.
Black women, black and not white women, Black, Indigenous, BIPOC people.
Exactly. But in general, our mortality is so high in this. it affects, all of the races in our society. And that is because, when we make these divisions, like black versus white, black always loses. Woman versus man, woman always loses. And so that's why we don't have, our medicine hasn't invested in studying how different disorders present in women, in people with female anatomy. They get worse care. And so the goal is to be like, don't reduce us to our genitalia, because when you do that, you give us worse care.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to our next topic. No, hey, I feel I don't feel erased as a woman. However, I am a little concerned about the puberty blockers. I do feel that there's so much more studies that needs to be done. So to delve into this space at the rate we're delving into it, I find it somewhat frightening, actually. And this is a serious surgery, and to block puberty in young people, but you're faced with the other side of that is, well, you can help support your child that's is troubled with their gender identity, or you can face a child that might be suicidal or commit suicide. So there's such tough decisions to make, but I am concerned about the haste in getting gender reassigned, because it's still a very brand new type of surgery. And when you do see a lot of the folks talking about the negative effects of it, you certainly are concerned. And so I advocate for acceptance. I think it's healthy. I think as you come, you must be accepted because you're here. You are meant to be.
I love
here.
that.
So
I absolutely agree. But I think that's something we're supposed to say. But in practice, we actually teach our children how to shame and make fun of people who don't fit into the things. We teach them not to accept each other. So
I think the more we improve our capacity to see each other as individuals, removing labels, to accept each other and to show love to each other as we show up, the more gender affirming care is simply seeing each other and being with each other. It would be I think I have a theory that we would see less of a feeling, a sense that identity needs to be that bodies need to be augmented or changed in any way. We have a social arrangement that is the primary problem for the way we see ourselves and the way we're not fully happy with ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's my feeling, that you don't have to change for me to accept you. I accept you.
I love that. I love that feeling, but I also see that we are all very cisgender people in non-fat bodies, able-bodied. So it's easy for us to be like, well, just accept yourself and love yourself. But a person who has a thyroid issue, who for whatever reason is fat, who is disabled, the world doesn't treat them like that. The world says that you're wrong and you have a moral failing for why you're fat, and we're allowed to make fun of you for that. And so it feels, for me, I don't want to say like, because I'm happy with my body and don't need surgery or anything else to make me feel good, to make the world treat me well. You can't do it.
So that's why, of course, with adults, it's the one thing with the minors. To me, once we have a conversation of respect and love and a discourse, I think we can have a conversation about minors and we talk about consent and adulthood. And maybe there's a different conversation about puberty blockers and all that stuff, but we're still calling 40-year-olds mentally ill if they're not dressing as we would expect of them, right? We still have news reporters who might speak in that way, and so it ruins our capacity to understand the whole thing,
Yeah, we're very judgmental creatures. We're very visual creatures,
and we get attached to the stories we're told when we're young, and so the trouble with being like, let's accept everyone, is we weren't taught how to do that. So I think the technology and the language is going to develop faster than our willingness to accept it.
We're being forced to accept it, I think. And I think social media and technology allows that space to breathe, it allows for that to happen. So, I mean, you see it already. It's just it's an ongoing thing. And that's the importance of culture. Culture teaches us how to be. And I certainly, one of the reasons why I even have this platform and it's focused on American culture is because of that belief. I believe culture shapes us. So if we must unlearn and relearn, that's what we do. We are evolving. We evolve as people. I mean, as Black people, we come from, Africa to enslaved people and to now being, you know what I mean? We have change happen. So it's inevitable. But the cultural part and the acceptance, not making fun of people if they're short or fat or whatever. I mean, that stuff is culture, and it has to start in the home. And that is the common culture. It's supposed to be, but not everyone is kind. Not everyone will treat, because the Bible even says it, right? The Bible says, do unto others, so it's not like we haven't been taught, as religious as this country is,
Yeah, but people love to do lip service and they love to perform a certain kind of thing in one way.
And pick and choose what parts of the Bible, because the Bible is also very condoning of slavery. So it's like, it was a book trying to make sense of what was going on then, and it really does not apply now. But we're attached to that story that it does.
Yeah. All right. Well, we can go on and on about this, but it's such an interesting topic, and I think it's still worthy of talking about respectfully because we're still learning. So let's move on to our next topic. And okay, this is a good one. This was, as someone who's spent plenty of time in Congress, this was a little disappointing for me. So let's get into the next one.
And welcome back to Red and Blue. I'm Caitlin Huey-Burns. A growing number of lawmakers are criticizing Congressman-elect George Santos as he comes under fire for allegedly lying about his background. The 34-year-old Republican was elected to represent New York's 3rd Congressional District, which includes parts of Long Island, in November. As first reported by the New York Times this week, multiple media outlets, including ours, have found evidence contradicting his job history, education, finances, and genealogy. State Attorney General Letitia James announced Thursday that she is opening an investigation into his alleged fabrications.
Boy,
wow!
This is another one. Sheba, what do you think about this member of Congress? And he helped secure Republicans having control of the House. I mean, he won a former Democratic district. He flipped that district. And he helped the Republicans gain a majority in the House. So, but those are pretty egregious lies. I mean, it's like, wait a second, I'm insulted. I'm offended. I'm like,
they're so easily disprovable. If you're going to lie about something, it's like, I play the banjo, something that's hard to disprove, but like where you went to college, whether or not your parents were Jewish, like those are, it's also a surprise. Before I really knew of him, I was like, gay, Jewish.
Right. Is he even
Republican? The thing that they were Republican was the strangest thing to me. And so it kind of makes more sense. Okay, he was just performing what he thought would be popular. What people would. It's like, okay, they like the idea of Ukraine, Jewish. We've got that. We've got a college education. We've got all of these different things.
Republican.
Exactly, all of us. But like, girl.
Yeah.
So I think the audacity, I admire the audacity to, try and be like, this is who I am, and expecting no one to check for some receipts.
It's crazy. Billy, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that leads right into it. Checking for receipts. We live in a time of disinformation, misinformation, cheap, superficial marketing. We live in a time of, what was the joint with Ja Rule?
Fire Festival.
The Fire Festival, where you marketing and presenting, and if you can present yourself one way, and again, as someone in a media background, I think that our media preoccupies itself with the superficialities and the banal kind of nonsense and easy labels. And so Jewish grandparents and ran an animal charity, and he just kind of picked all the attributes that he thought would be interesting,
profitable,
and he was able to run that for I don't know how long, but it's just indicative of the thing. It's indicative of our moment, and
it's indicative of what we're told to value: college education, an immigrant background, animal charity, and we don't even working in industry at Citigroup, owning rental property, taking part in this capitalistic market. Those are the things we're supposed to value, and they aren't even true. It's literally you just he thought he just needed the image of it, and that would be good.
They just pick and choose. It's just like this goes back to the football player Herschel Walker. I mean, the whole thing is he's a black man, Republican sheriff. He just picked, and the reason he's hilarious, right? With the little something he bought off of Toys R Us. The reason it's even people thought he was politically viable because of these demographics things. He's not grounded in anything political that makes sense. That he's a Republican because of these values. It's simply
he's a Republican because he wants to make money.
Yeah, and there's too many black people in the Democrat Party. That's just so he stands out as a Republican, and this standing out and the marketing and the performance, it goes all back to that.
Yeah, I don't think I really don't want to be insulting to him, but I just didn't.
Go ahead, girl.
Very smart enough to even, I think it's the Republicans' way of politicking. And so they put up this character almost as that's what the black community in Georgia deserves. That's what y'all deserve, because they know that he's easily led. He doesn't really think for himself. I mean, the Republican Party, if Mitch McConnell or any of these Republican leaders tell him to vote one way, he'll definitely do it, and he's proven that over and over again. So I thought
that I think is kind of what is kind of the main qualification for being a politician: your willingness to do what you're told by the older people in the party, the richer people, the more established people. And
yeah, exactly. I agree with you. But it's just the crazy. But also, where's his money coming from? Because this congressman-elect, before he got to this point, he had no money, and as a matter of fact, he needed help. His mother passed away. This is according to reports. Mm-hmm. His mother passed away, and he wasn't able to afford the burial, so he asked, I believe, the state for help. But then, again, I believe he was used. I mean, obviously, he went along with it. But somebody paid his bill. He spent a lot of money was put into his campaign that supposedly came directly from him. But it doesn't make any sense because you couldn't pay for your mother's funeral.
Yeah, and apparently he didn't work at Goldman Sachs. He didn't work at Citigroup. He didn't work at these supposedly high-paying things that could have given the startup. So you're right. I mean, I think he probably did it the old-fashioned way. Swindled people, pretended he was something, and pretended he was going to get them something, and people are willing to bet on someone with a good story.
Oh, I think there was somebody who gave him money. Somebody in there, there's that dark money.
Sure, exactly.
Yeah,
and they're backing individuals who tick boxes. It's not these
Latino.
Aren't intelligent or substantive people. These aren't people with a vision for how the country should be. If they tick certain boxes, if they can perform the right thing, if they're fairly articulate,
if they're in the right body,
then it can then they can sell whatever. They can sell it like any other product. And this is a failing of the media. It's a failing of our political system broadly, and our capacity to see our system cracking and how to actually regain some accountability. It's all a nutty thing.
And I like what you said there, because it leads to my next point, which is, what were the journalists doing? Why were we not covering this? This was a simple call. You could just call Goldman Sachs.
Did he go to college?
What we're already doing. I thought that's what journalists do. As a journalist, that's what I would do if I was in the newsroom and I was assigned to cover this person.
When they were a candidate.
Yeah, it's a basic fact checking process. I mean, this is the New York Times. You guys, the election is over, and this guy. Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy what has happened. You know
That's
what I mean?
what's strange too. It's like, why did you sit on this information until after the election? What's the point of that?
We're seeing all this weird stuff, you know, and I want to say, sadly, more and more. And if you look at the history of media and in the United States, you'll see the subtle ways that the media coordinates with the powerful. And there's these ways, you know, people want to pretend that there's this independence between CNN and the Democrats, independence between Fox and the Republicans. We know that that's not true, but these are, you know, so often there's a revolving door between the media and these governments entities. And yeah, who knows why there was a failing there. One thing to point to is, as so often we see that the media stories are kind of copied and pasted. We don't have the investment in investigative journalism and like people who are going to do that work. The investment is in quick dialogue and
quick money. I mean, the media is they make money. It's a business, you know. You know, if it bleeds, it leads. And you're right, they will not budget for investigative journalists because they don't think it's valuable until these moments show up. And now they have egg in their faces because it's like, wait a second, you have a role to play here too as a news body, right?
The amount of egg on the faces right now is just heaps and heaps, pounds of eggs, omelets on top. And it's like, scrambled, it's a whole deal. But it's so crazy that, I mean, sometimes you have this deluge of how bad it is that everyone kind of throws their hands up, you know? That's how I see it.
And they don't want to pay for it, you know. And it's not like they don't have the money. There's plenty of money, you know.
They pay for talent. They pay for anchors. They
pay for someone who has the right image, you know. I think this too, this this connection between media and the powerful and money, I think, and telling this story, you know, I think it's also connected to the gender discussion. The media did kind of create this idea that if it bleeds, it leads. And, you know, the thing we know about the gender discussion is that, oh, the children are being harmed by the puberty blockers and things. I think they're trying to misrepresent what's actually happening, that process, in order to keep things going how they are, which is the LGBT are the rabble rousers. Anyone who is trying to change what we've always done is doing it in bad faith, is doing it to harm children. And really, I think it's probably a lot more complicated than that.
Yeah. Well, culture is very hard to change. It's a very difficult thing to change. You must be deliberate in it. And because, you know, once you're set in, this is how we do things around here. Good luck trying to change that. You know, if you just like changing racism, you know, I don't believe if you were born and it's in your DNA, if you're all you heard growing up is that, you know, blacks are bad and white are good, that's a very difficult thing to change. You know, it's a very difficult thing, like having to, you know, almost switch out your blood. And
I think especially when we're also all taught things like, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, which is not even how dogs work. Old dogs are naturally curious, natural learners. So even when they're old, they learn new things. I think the powerful benefit from everyone thinking once you're old, whatever you learned when you were young, that was the thing and you got to stick with it. But I think humans, like dogs, are able to do hard things.
Of course. Look where we are.
Better narratives about the human condition. Better narratives about our society and our potential for to be good, to be brilliant, you know? Because you play into your narratives. You play into what you believe about yourself.
You rise to the standards set for you.
That's just a fact.
Yeah. All right. Speaking of rising and then falling, let's say, I excuse my little...
Woo, what a segue.
Here we go.
On the morning of November 2nd, 2022, FTX was worth $32 billion. Within the span of minutes, everything fell apart. FTX's trading firm, Alameda Research, had just suffered from a news leak. An article by CoinDesk revealed that Alameda Research held $5.1 billion worth of FTT tokens, which was FTX's flagship cryptocurrency. While subtle at the time, this was the iceberg that would sink the Titanic. On November 6th, FTX began to sink. The CEO of Binance CZ had announced that he would be liquidating $2.1 billion of FTT tokens. This was a declaration of war. CZ had just discovered that Alameda Research was not just a company tied to FTX, but practically was FTX. If he could make Alameda Research sink, FTX would as well. As the FTT token began tanking, so did the value of Alameda Research's assets. Hundreds of millions of dollars were almost instantly withdrawn from FTX. The bank run had officially begun.
Yeah, so, this is a really big one because we have entered the giant space of cryptocurrency, which I've always been nervous about. When this first started coming to the scene some years ago, I was like, and I had some friends who are like, oh no, you gotta buy. I have friends who have Bitcoin, but I'm like, I'm a little nervous. I don't know. And so this certainly sent shockwaves across, the market. So, Billy, what are your thoughts on this crypto downfall? Do you delve in crypto? Do you got some Bitcoins?
Yeah, I got pulled into crypto through sort of the NFT space as an artist. I jumped in, and yeah, like you, Bitcoin and the early conversations about crypto, I stayed away. I was pretty cautious. But then the NFT game came, and so I think we're all. It's so funny how these are all tied together because we're talking about Sam Bankman-Fried and the marketing and the presentation of things that lead to valuations. Crypto is volatile for a number of reasons, and one of them is the big rush that occurred where people were connecting themselves to celebrities and just in the NFT thing. I have a couple of original NFTs that I've created, and I've also been parts of other projects, but it continues to be, I think, a lot of flash in the pan stuff for people to be buying these pixels, these images, these digital images that are not even tangible, and be buying them for hundreds of thousands of dollars in this flipping market. It was about presenting value through connections with celebrities, and if all these people are into it, then I should be into it. And again, you take the same guy, the founder, Sam Bankman-Fried. Look at how he was so well received and on stages with all of these officialdom and government officials and experts in the finance world and experts in the media world. And so he gets all of this credibility, and his value rises from that, not from the work that he's doing or the value of the product that he's creating or to the society. So it's all a weird mess.
Yeah, it is. It's a scary mess to me because, if we're talking about going full crypto, because, that's the direction we're heading, this is a sign of what is to come. And when you talk about the celebrity, and Sheba, you can take this part, you will have celebrities like Kim Kardashian that promote this stuff, and all she does, they'll just give her a check and they say, hey, we'll connect with the celebrity, you go sell to the people who know nothing about this, and then they get to suffer. She just paid a penalty for what happened with the Bitcoins or the cryptocurrency she was selling or promoting. And then there's also Kevin O'Leary. So Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. He got $15 million to promote FTX. Wow. $15 million. This is after he called it garbage. He said he didn't trust it. It was garbage.
Changed his tune, huh?
Right? And you'll change your tune for $15 million. I'm surprised he didn't wear a hula skirt and, signs on the street, flipping signs. He's talking about buy FTX. So what are your thoughts on that, on celebrities and already multi-millionaires, people getting in on this? They don't really have much to lose, other than really their credibility, but their pockets.
Million, whatever the fine is probably nothing for them. And this is what the system is. Like, the fines are such little like little booty taps that it's not really going to change this system. But I recently became aware of this term mimetic desire, and it's this idea that people will want something that someone of higher status wants. So if someone of high status says that Kim Kardashian is beautiful, everyone else wants that. If someone of high status says that crypto is a smart investment, Bored Ape Yacht Club is a smart investment, we'll want to be like, I want to be smart. I want to do things that a smart, high status, rich person does. So I'm going to do that. And that's kind of what they're doing. They're kind of saying, look, Justin Bieber thinks it's cool. Look, Kim Kardashian thinks it's cool. Kevin O'Leary thinks it's cool. So it must be smart. And we're seeing like, oh, they're just pretending. And you're right. It is all connected. We have this, I think this crypto stuff is so attractive and so complicated because it's pulling back the curtain on the idea that everything is made up, from our language to our currency to the things we value. Those are all based on stories we've been told. And crypto is a good story. It's like, oh, decentralizing, taking the banks away. But if it's all still essentially run by a couple of men and their friends, is it any different than the gold standard or any other type of, profit exchange incentive thing?
Yeah. And I think it's also connected in the media in the sense that, when Kim Kardashian posts or any of these celebrities or Kevin O'Leary, they are journalists. Whether they acknowledge it or not. And we all have to come into this awareness that every post, every tweet, every Facebook, we are contributing to the public discourse and the public understanding of evaluations and what's going on in the world. And so it bleeds into the challenges going on at CNN and other places, because we're talking about transparency. When you come out and you write your article or you write your tweet, when you endorse something, the assumption is, if you're a journalist, that you are truly looking at it and telling us what you see. And for us to really understand you, we need to know your full motivations, which include, were you paid $15 million to say this? So transparency has to be expanded. Like we expect transparency in certain ways in the political realm and this and that, but I think we're beyond that now. I think everyone is part of every word we utter is part of a set of perspectives and interests, and we have to be conscious of that and help. If we're trying to be honest, if we're trying to do journalism, if we're trying to articulate what is real, we have to be honest about and be transparent about from where we speak and see.
Yeah. And the fact that it bled into our political atmosphere. I mean, FTX gave plenty of money to politicians to run their re-elections, and I'm sure Herschel Walker got some of that. Maybe he did. I don't know. But he gave them funding. So why weren't they watching? Sometimes are they paid to not be not watch the market? They're supposed to watch the market. That's why we also don't want them to go play in the market. That's why there was an issue with Leader Pelosi. Former Leader Pelosi. Getting all this money from the stock market, and it just gives you the perception of it just makes you uncomfortable. And whether you're honest or not, it's just it really sets you apart from the people you say you're there to represent. Because these people aren't there, but every politician in Congress, every member of Congress, most of them are lawyers, and they're all filthy rich.
They all have health care. They all get weekends and sick leave, And
they represent people who are not there. They don't see the world or experience the world or America the same way. And yet they benefit from the things that hurt the public that they represent. It's unfortunate.
With the up and downs of the markets, how, inflation goes up for us, the cost of our labor goes down. But who keeps benefiting? The politicians. They're doing fine. It's almost like they like the system the way it is and don't want us to think don't control the language. Don't think that you can create your own value. No. How we're doing it is fine. We've got it.
That's right. Hey, listen, power will never be given to those without power. And, Dr. King told us that you want power, you must demand it. You must fight for it, even against the people who say they're fighting for us. I'm confused.
Yes, exactly.
Can I just point out too, just again to make it up, to tie back to some of our earlier conversations, and power and the ability to create language. Look, FTX, DAOs, crypto, NFTs, Web3. These are words. These are newly created words that were created in order to explain and to propagate certain phenomena, markets, certain to open up exchanges and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we allow? So you have to be a coder and a CEO in order to be able to use language in your service. Like, I think that all of us have that freedom. Also, people merge and companies merge and things. So we have the ability to reframe our understanding of things, to create language, to some of the separations and walls that we have are more malleable. And in some spaces, in the finance space, the goal is to allow as free that kind of freedom as possible, because that's how you get more
because
profit.
The powerful are using that.
But each of us have that same power and should be willing and ready to employ it for our own benefit as we try to understand ourselves and communicate with each other.
Yeah, well, it's something we have to fight for. Just even the idea, when we even go back to emancipation, just the idea, like, it's wrong to enslave people. It's just morally wrong. You can't call on God and then be, chopping limbs off. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense.
That's also a thing that I keep in mind is when I see people trying to make progress, trying to evolve, and other people being like, no, what? Any trying to move forward is bad. What are we talking about? Everything from back then was worse. People treated each other much worse. We treated the land worse. Everything was bad. So then why now would we assume, oh yeah, it'll be better if we go backwards?
Yeah. It's about maintaining, it's, again, the change. To change is very uncomfortable, especially when that change means equity or equality, because those who have the power feel oppressed at the notion of having to share all that they have taken, by brutality and unjust ways. So it's shocking that mentality also has to change about sharing that human space everywhere, so it's go ahead.
They've really created this idea that they've made us all think that everything is scarce. Oh, there's not enough money to raise the minimum wage. Oh, there's not enough money for everyone to have health care, but always more money to send to Ukraine, always money to make trillionaires and double trillionaires and things. We always find the money then. It's almost like we don't want to use our creative problem solving brains in order to solve the actual issues that exist.
Yeah, and look at the defense budget they just passed. It was more than what they even asked for.
1.7 billion more.
1.7 trillion.
Yeah.
Yeah, like absolutely.
Trillion.
Yeah, trillion.
If we took
weapons.
If we took one day of military budget spending and spent it on giving everyone health care, curing homelessness, doing all of these things that we can all agree we would benefit from over, the military. Our military is double the size of all the other militaries combined. We are good. We don't, but it's like we were told a long time ago that we have to spend all of our money on military, and that's the smart thing. And even though we know that is not the smart thing, we know it's not even creating the solving
safety.
The problems, the
It's not
safety.
creating safety.
We're all still very unsafe. Yeah. We're all still, trying to escape this life. Let's try something different.
No. Speaking of trying to escape this life, this is a good segue to our next topic, because TJ and Amy were looking to escape their lives.
Which, really,
It's a love story like
none other you're about to hear about. We joke, we laugh, and we're having a good time here, but these are absolutely two of my favorite people on the planet. So of course, you all know Amy Robach and her husband here, Andrew Shue, who's a dear, dear friend as well. Well, even though they're having fun here and they can smile and laugh and hug and kiss, these are two folks who got together, both divorced, and also she had 2 girls, he had 3 sons, and that family came together.
And then TJ and Amy came together. These are just some of the clips that TJ Holmes would probably like to have back. Didn't age very well. He and his Good Morning America co-host, Amy Robach, by all accounts, carried on a torrid and not so secret, at least among their co-workers, affair while married to other people. Nobody seemed to care until the Daily Mail exposed it, including pictures of their canoodling. Now they're off air pending an ABC investigation, both of them. It's, of course, very different treatment than MSNBC's Joe and Mika, who carried on a similarly well-known but not discussed affair for years while they were both married. Then they got divorced and got married to each other. Robert Patillo posted, "Somebody explain to me the difference between TJ Holmes and Amy and Joe and Mika. Why has TJ been demonized and suspended from his show, but Joe and Mika are the faces of MSNBC?"
So that is the question. So, Sheba, let's start with you. What are your thoughts at this whole thing? Were you surprised? Were you shocked? Were you hurt?
Yeah, so I don't watch a lot of news shows, so I didn't know who they were. They're third hour people, and so I didn't know who they were until this came up, and I was interested. I kind of have this understanding that, like, yeah, rich coworkers cheat. Like, that's what I've seen a lot of times. And why is this a big deal? But I saw that, their parent company is Disney, which makes a lot of money off of this image of morality and kind of purity. And someone who is, a known serial cheater, it's tough for their brand. And he is in a uniquely image-based profession. And so, like, I think when he got away with it with one of the producers, he should have cut his losses, but instead, he had to keep keep assuming that he's a rich guy who's made it. Like, what could happen to you?
Right. Yeah. It's certainly that whole drunk on power thing going on, but
untouchable.
Yeah, untouchable. And this is all the producer he also allegedly had an affair with. That's what we know. There could be plenty more. You know what I mean? We just don't know. But what bothered me was how they celebrated covertly. And it's like the news broke, and then they showed back up on the news, the anchor seats, and they were like, "What a great week it's been!" Like, yes, it was so. Like,
we can come out now.
Did they just do that? I mean, that is absolutely outrageous. I thought, because I firmly believe in the sanctity of marriage. I think that once you make a commitment, then you must honor that. And if you're done, if it's irreconcilable, then you go through the process. You respect the process to move on. I thought what she did also was very disrespectful, and I think it shifts, it destroys culture and the idea of the things that we must hold sacred to protect ourselves. Billy, what are your thoughts on how this whole thing played out?
Let me clarify that clip that you showed where he was introducing the husband. Was that after it broke? That wasn't after it broke, right?
That's from a while ago.
That was from a while ago. Okay.
Yeah, but I'm sure they were probably, you know what I mean? Like, that looked so bad.
That was so tense and weird. Yeah, look, I'll start from where you left off. I think that when you enter into agreements with people and contracts, covenants, whatever you want to call it, you should respect that. And so, so obviously they're both at fault for that. And I think you hit the nail on the head that the Disney company sees itself as presenting something, a little bit more clean, and so that's why they're getting a bit of a look. I'll tell you what, man, as someone who's worked on movie sets and sort of work environments that are very formal but also looser work environments, like music video sets where sometimes you can have very attractive women walking around, butt naked women walking around. For me, I understand that. I don't want any confusion. I don't want any static. I don't want any gray area. I don't want any problems. And so,
not in the age of Me Too.
Right. No, exactly, yo. So, I mean, I can see it's just something. It's you got to be able to see and appreciate beauty and keep it moving, because he just made his life look way more difficult, and so is she.
It also. Oh, go
What
ahead.
about double standards though? Because there's also pushback of the Black folks that are saying, wait a second, this is because they're a mixed couple. It's because he's Black, she's white. They don't like it. That's why they're being punished. Because Mika and Joe, nothing happens with them. So what do you think, Sheba?
Maybe. I certainly understand that Black people are treated to a different standard, and so I take that into account in my day-to-day life. I understood from growing up, if I become pregnant out of wedlock, that will be a knock against all Black people. If I am arrested or go to jail, that's a knock against all Black people. If I become something, I'm a lawyer, if I did something less prestigious, that would count against us. And so it helped guide me a little bit, being like, I know that we are held to a double standard. So I got to, I'm going to do things that are aware of that. And so I think we can't be like, oh, America treats Black people differently. Yeah, we know that. So we have to protect ourselves because we know they're looking for us to slip up.
Yeah. Do you think there was a double standard? I didn't see the double standard because Mika and Joe, they got divorced before they got together or they got married, and then the world knew. But supposedly, allegedly, they were having an affair long before, which I'm sure could have been, but we didn't know.
Yeah, they weren't open about it until exactly. Which I think that is kind of what we're taught. You got to kind of make it look good, even if it the dates might be fudged in reality. When you're presented, you got to make sure those papers are signed, that you've dotted your T's and everything. So I didn't see it as a double standard, but I also don't really know much about what's his name in Mika.
TJ. I love TJ. I used to always have a crush on him. I just was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be a news anchor one day and we're gonna get married. I loved him. I was heartbroken.
Billy's mom always compared him to TJ. He's like, you're so attractive.
My mom, she finds him attractive, and she says, she's she's so happy her son looks like TJ. And I remember the first time she said that, I was like, who is this person? And
I think another thing too is, this is all about it helps us see what we've allowed from people. If you are deemed attractive and male, we allow you to have this image of being a good guy, but you're a shark. We kind of know you're probably cheating. You're probably swindling in some way. You're probably not.
Probably cheating.
I think when attractive men are found to have cheated on their wives, we kind of are like,
yep.
And we expect the woman to forgive and to kind of take that humiliation and that disrespect as, a measure of her value, her ability to take someone,
that sounds like a problem then. I feel like there needs to be a cultural shift. I talked about this earlier. And I'd say that men need to kind of help each other, police each other maybe, but women too need to assert that we don't.
Girl, you have stand up for yourself.
Some social penalty for these things.
Yeah. Because I think, and that's where the morality comes in for me. It's like, so you're choosing to, feed the flesh to your desires. And listen, I get desires. I get it, but you have to weigh, especially your position, like you were saying, as a lawyer, you're held to a different standard than I am. I'm not an attorney. As a journalist, I'm held to a different standard on a journalistic code. I'm not going to write a story that is not factual, so we're held to different standards, and Amy and TJ are held to a certain standard, and they should be held accountable. And the way they behaved afterwards, it was very covert, very childlike, very immature, to almost rub it in their spouse's faces. They're still married and there are children involved.
Exactly.
That's not fair.
Exactly.
Tell me again, how did they rub in your mind? How did they rub in the face? What was
after the story was, and I'm not saying that because, I think TJ is cute. Not personal. I was saying that because of the way they behaved. I think perception. They came on when they were on the anchor seat. They were so giddy. and they were laughing. They knew that the story was out there, and there was no remorse. They literally were high-fiving each other like, what a great week. Yeah,
We did it.
we did it. Like everybody, like our love is how it's like there are children involved here. You have a spouse, you're still a married person, and it just degrades our culture. Sheba was talking about how she, as a Black woman, she feels accountable to her community. Like, I'm not going to go to jail because it's going to make my whole, not just me look bad, but my family and my community. You have a sense of duty. And I think that is lost. And that bothered me, Billy.
Agreed. That makes sense.
Yeah, that bothered me. So speaking of duty, our next topic, which is about feminism today. And it's right? Because we're talking about Michelle Obama versus Tia Mowry, two different types of women with different views on life, apparently. But things are changing. Here we go.
It's not really one piece of advice. To me, it's a philosophy. It's an outlook. In this age of, we want everything now, we want everything quick. When life is everything but that, we have to understand that marriage is never 50-50. And you sort of wonder how that idea kind of got out there. I have found that if you stick with it, over the course of your entire relationship, you may have 50-50 over time. But if I look over my marriage, if I were to judge it in year 5 or year 10, there was never 50-50. Somebody was always giving way more. Someone always needed a different kind of thing. You have to evolve with it.
I knew when I really started to focus on my happiness. I feel like women, we tend to focus on everybody else's happiness, making sure that everybody else is okay. Meaning, our children, our friends, our, family. But at the end of the day, it's about self-love. And when you start to really work on yourself, love yourself, know your value, know your worth, and then all of a sudden there's this awakening.
Well, Sheba, let's go to you on this one. Which camp are you in, or do you believe? Obviously, you two are married, so I expect you to. But do you think Tia Mowry is saying something there that people should listen to? Is this the evolution? Is that the direction we're heading towards?
Yeah. So I'm actually, this is my second marriage. This is my second go round. So I do very much agree. I think women in, older generations, my moms, my grandmothers and things, women were taught kind of more like Michelle Obama, that you're never going to get 50-50 from a man. If you're lucky, if you stick it out for 80 years, maybe you'll get to 50-50. And what I don't think she specified was that women are expected to pick up the slack, that women are often the ones who have to risk their health and life to create children. They're expected to not get paid as much for that. They're expected to, if their man goes and cheats on them, they're expected to keep the family together and to make themselves smaller.
For your man.
Exactly. You
stand by your man.
Yes, for your children, for the man, never for you, never for you. And so I grew up with, my parents were both married. They were both, high paid government employees. But I saw my father drive once in my entire life. My mother drove us everywhere. She went to all of our games. She scheduled all of our appointments. She did all of the fix-its around the house and stuff. And yet my father gets to get the credit for being the head of the family. And I knew that I was like, that's not going to be me. Like, if I'm going to be doing all of the work, I need to get all the credit. And so in my first marriage, I was maybe probably 10 years ago now, I was in a different place in my life. And I had, that was my second boyfriend. I didn't have, guys, for whatever reason, did not want to date this amazing person. And so, exactly. That's exactly. But it also made me, not have a lot of experience in relationships. So I you know, he didn't hit me or anything, but the way he spoke to me, the way he belittled me, the way he resented me, I, for a time, thought that like, hey, I want this to work. I don't want to be a quitter, you know? And so I'm going to bend over backwards to make this work. And I saw that he wasn't. He was happy to see me overperform and pick up his slack, and not give any of that for me in return. So one day, oh my gosh, the whole crazy story. So my ex, he was a double master's in business and finance. And so when we got married, I was like, great, that's a pretty safe bet. Girl, he stopped working. He refused to go to therapy. When he did want to work, he wanted to be a professional poker player. And he didn't want me to call him a gambler, but, and so that was happening. I was paying all the bills, doing all the stuff, you know, keeping, you know, a good image on things. Wow. And then my father died. And my ex, he didn't call. He didn't come to the funeral, didn't come to the wake. And it was an awakening for me. And I was like, you know what? Do I have to wait for another one of my parents to die to see if this guy is going to be there for me? Or am I going to have some respect for myself and understand my own value, see that I am the draw in this relationship? And if I'm the draw now, I'll probably be the draw in the future. So it allowed me to free myself up to do all this work. And so when Billy came around, I was able to be like, oh, wow, he's a great fit. He makes me better. He makes my life better. So
Aww.
But that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
You know, you're supposed to come and bring something to the table. You're not supposed to show up empty-handed to somebody's house party. Why would you show empty-handed into your marriage?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So, you know, so what are your thoughts? You know, but what do you think about what Tia Mowry says versus what Michelle Obama says? Because those are two very different views on the idea of marriage.
Yeah, I think that this is just like so much of the other stuff that we've talked about in the shifting cultural ideas and the shifting norms. I think that men and women are constantly sort of engaged in a dance with each other about what we're doing, how we spend our time together. You know, I know, you know, I've never felt more comfortable in a relationship than with Sheba because, you know, she and I have a very strong set of ways of communicating to understand sort of what we expect of each other. And we don't have a very traditional arrangement. We spoke directly to each other and orchestrated what we've built. And I think there's value in that because I think, you know, the old model is one where both people are maybe not working with each other. They're sort of performing an external archetype of a picture of what it should look like. And I think that there are challenges with that. What happens, especially that archetype, I think was constructed mostly by men,
white men.
And so it puts women in a predicament of, if you want to stay, you'll have to comport with these things. So I love what we've built. I hope Tia can find the same thing. And I think Barack and Michelle have done that, but for them, you know, it's definitely an older sort of mindset.
I feel it kind of, to me, I feel like she feels accountable just because her parents were also married. So it's also something she grew up with. And I think just like Sheba was saying that, hey, I feel a duty to my community, not just myself. I think that's part of what she's doing too. I mean, considering she's a former first lady, I think, you know, I'm sure they love each other. I know they love each other. I love them. They're my favorite couple. I absolutely love me some Michelle Obama.
Yeah.
I think she should be the next president, but she doesn't want to, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I would vote for her and Judge Judy as vice president.
Oh my God, I would love that. That would be great.
We need Judge Judy.
Oh my gosh. She can get things done. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love something a story that I always use about Judge Judy. Sorry, this tangent. When she negotiates her contracts for the next year, she comes to a meeting with the producers and she's like, gives them a number. She slides a piece of paper over and they're like, okay, well, we can come up with a counter offer. She's like, oh no, that's the offer. If you didn't accept it, I walk. That is what I am trying to do. And that is what I love, women seeing their value. And I think we would have fewer TJ Homes messing around if they knew, no, you're going to lose this incredibly valuable asset if you are frivolous with it.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with saying, well, this is my level. What's wrong with that? This is my line.
Yeah.
This is my garden. You're welcome to play. But this is this is the price of admission.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
Yeah.
See, and I think that's new. I think that a woman being able to do that is new for cultural reasons, for legal reasons, financial reasons. Everything has shifted in terms of the way you could structure a family. Again, the law used to prevent women from having access to financial security and loans and doing things like this. That's a very powerful ceiling. It's not even glass, it's a very metal ceiling that all of this has shifted us into new dynamics of what the family is. And the best way you could do it, I think men get better when women are in a position where we have to be challenged. The dudes that are not challenged because their women are dependent, like the dudes who look for dependent women and then land dependent women and then sort of exert their will on those women, they might enjoy something. You can carve off something, but they're not experiencing the breadth of what the woman brings. They're not being improved, and the relationship is, I think, worsened.
Yeah, it reminded me of a quote from Margaret Mead, and she said, "Every time we liberate a woman, we liberate a man."
Absolutely.
Facts.
We are the yin and the yang.
It's a team thing.
Yeah. I think for so long, we've been told that women's only value is their ability to help a man live his life. And that we should be happy to be able to do what needs to be done in order for him to go and live his dreams. And I'm sorry, that is why we've got the world that we do now. That's why everything's on fire and everyone's depressed and insecure about themselves and thinks that domination is the only thing when, I think women are, it's like, we're Tom Brady, but the world sees us as water boys. And so they don't understand why we're trying to lead or we're trying to tell people, hey, this is what we should do. They're like, you're a water boy. And we're like, oh, we're Tom Brady.
I know. I think that's a really good analogy. I think it's a good one. It's even though I'm not a big fan of Tom Brady.
Exactly. It's only because I know like 4 football players. I'm not into the NFL, but that's another thing. I hate that this society says a man who can throw a ball in a game that white men created is worth $44 million a year. But a teacher, a woman's job, no, I'm going to need you and the children to fundraise so you can have pencils. That is not good.
I do understand the reasons for it, that, obviously the marketplace is larger. However, but the value, it's like you're talking about the next generation of leaders, of inventors, of doctors, nurses, lawyers, and teachers, whatever. Like, we're teaching children. I think teachers should definitely be paid more. They're not getting paid enough at all.
Yeah, I think children are learning. Okay, teachers are not. It's not a valuable industry. I'm not going to be a teacher. Politician, that's where I can make money. Football player, that's where I can make money. And so the things that we actually need done, we're telling them that isn't valuable, so don't even pursue it. And that you failed somehow if that's where you end up.
And also, the social media space, like places like OnlyFans, I think you see a lot of people saying that's where the money's at, where the money reside, where the money
Which when I see nurses and teachers and other women who are like, hey, this is what we would like to do. We would like to heal. We would like to teach, but you don't want to pay us. And so I'm supposed to make my needs less by not doing OnlyFans. Why?
I think
this is what the market is.
I think we're in a tough place where not only OnlyFans, but Instagram influencer or TikTok influencer that children are seeing, and they're not dumb. They're seeing that these are the high profile, high paid, valuable jobs, and they want to do that. And notwithstanding, like, as much as you want to say for all those positions, there is a different value. Like, if all the children want to do that, the question will be, where will we get some of the things that are kind of more needed? I mean,
like what?
Like the engineers and things like this.
Why do we need engineers when our bus systems are
to fix the bus systems. We do need engineers. So the point is
we
this.
already have engineers and we still don't use it to fix the bus systems is the thing I'm saying. I think it's too valuable. It's too profitable for the rich to change things. Like they like the way things are.
Yeah, of course.
I'm saying, Sheebs, if children all want to be either OnlyFans or Instagram influencers or even stock people, what I'm saying is, to me, those are the same like people on Wall Street who are producing value without producing income without value. Let's say that this is a thing. Like people who want to do NFTs, and if 100% of the population of kids looks up to this, I fuck with it, but it's not producing anything. It's the value comes from the flipping and the exchange. And that is a problem that we're gonna have to contend with. It's one of the problems.
It's like, why would you be a rail worker if you know we're not gonna respect you, we're not gonna give you holidays, we're not gonna give you sick leave? Like, okay, that is us saying that we know we need work done, but we would rather be entertained.
Of course, but it's gonna catch up to us. It's not sustainable. So yes, grab while you can. But eventually you're going to need those train tracks to take you across town. And if you can't do it, it'll be a little too late. I think that the whole NFT space and the whole technology space is really, it's positive and negative. I think it certainly is a lot of good, but it destroys culture. It deteriorates our connection, our human connections. Kids don't even go outside anymore. We look at how people are killing each other. Young people are so quick to react, rather than take the time to process that human experience, whether it's positive or negative, and we're losing a really good opportunity to become better human beings because the internet makes it so easy for us to disregard being a human being and that we're just these things in the digital space that are competing for attention, competing for this, competing for everything, you know what I mean? And so we lose our human connection, the reason why our blood flows, why we breathe air.
So I agree totally. But I also think it's more of, that's what we've been told too. The media says, oh, everyone's on their phone now. Everyone's doing all this stuff. No one has connection. But like, oh, did we have a good connection during slavery? Were we all good at talking to each other during Jim Crow? Were we all great at seeing each other's uniqueness and valuing that during the 60s and 70s? No. I think at no other time have we been so intentional about the people, everyone taking part in creating our culture, in creating norms for how we speak to each other, in not just accepting, hey, you make fun of kids, you make fun of people who are slow, you make fun of fatties. Now we're like, actually, fat people still have a lot of value to us, and we're losing out on the value that they bring because we're so committed to telling them, no, you shouldn't be fat, when like that is actually not something we should be so concerned about. So
yeah, I agree. And speaking of intentional, our next topic, before we get into bread lumps, our next topic is about being intentional. And I know, Sheba, you had posted something about this on social media. And I was like, oh, wow, that is really interesting. I've had some friends who've decided that, I'm going to give up drinking. I've just overdone it this year, or for whatever reason, they want to get healthier. But the pressures are there. Let's take a look at what some folks are saying, and then we can talk about it.
So, but with alcohol, I will say, like, I just could see it snowballing into a point where I would quit again. But I miss drinking a lot for the sex thing, for the dancing thing, like just dancing to music in general, like is more fun. Like,
right, if you're drunk. Yeah.
Just life, like first two drinks, like life is like pretty great.
Yeah.
For
couple
two
of drinks. Yeah. You
but
feel good.
Sending text messages I don't want to send, reaching out to guys I don't want to talk to in the morning, all of that anxiety, the hangover. That's what I'm avoiding, is the hangover. And with weed, I don't have a hangover.
Yeah.
Do you get hangovers?
Yeah, from weed? No.
No,
but from booze, sure.
And does it make you want to quit and question everything? I mean, how do you keep your drinking in check?
So, how do we keep our drinking in check? Because, it's a festive time. But Sheba, tell me about your journey. What made you decide to stop drinking, and how's it going?
Yeah. So Last January, we had decided we decided in December that we were going to do a dry January, because in the year before, it's not like I don't even want to say we didn't drink all the time, because we actually did. We just live close to liquor stores. I have a very high tolerance for alcohol, so I would just get like a 6-pack of 8% beers and like drink it throughout the day. We loved old fashions, which is like a whiskey drink and things. And I was really proud of the fact that I'm this tiny girl who can handle my liquor better than dudes. It was a point of pride. Like I thought I was like cooler, like I was more, accepted, And then I thought, like, you know what? I don't think my liver cares that I can outdrink boys or that I can maintain this job. I think it's going to catch up to me. Like my body takes very little maintenance to look like this. And I don't think I'm different than anyone else. And I would watch Intervention a lot. I would read other people's stories of how they all thought they were functional drinkers. They kept the job. And there's just this one point where alcohol is an addictive substance. It is only a poison. And the only reason we associate it with the holidays, we associate it with good times, we associate it with socialization, with fun, is because alcohol companies want to make money. They want us to think that it is just a part of how you live. Life sucks. So just, the best part is having a drink with your friends. But actually, once I stopped drinking, I also stopped because I was like, am I funny, or is the alcohol the thing that makes me funny? Am I a sexy, cool, interesting person, or is it the alcohol that makes me that? And so I was really afraid to stop in case that was true, in case I discovered that, oh, Sheba is actually not that great, but drunk Sheba, that's the person you want to be around. And so
that's one great reflection there, self-awareness. That's great control. What about you, Billy? Did you stop drinking too? Is this a couples thing, or are you like, sorry, I'm having a good time, I'm still gonna need my 8%?
That's exactly right. I think we did the couples thing for January. I needed it because I looked in the mirror and I saw, I used to be an athlete, used to have a 6-pack, used to be ripped. And I looked in the mirror and I said, what is this? And it was right around the time we want to cruise. We were drinking so much. And I say, okay, let's do January. So January, but beyond that, look, I do like.
You wanted to do a break from August to your birthday, which is October.
That's right. My birthday's in October. So that's what it was. It was around my birthday. I turned 40 and I'm like, oh my goodness. So, but I've gone back and I like beer. I like old fashions, but really I don't drink a great deal. This is simply on my plate. It's something that I have to my avail if it's on the menu, but I really drink on the weekends, and occasionally I'll put a little something in the coffee, with the creamer, a little whiskey in the coffee, but
a little Bailey's, Irish coffee. I love it.
Yeah, I used to be a much heavier drinker, and less so. Even with Sheba's prohibition for herself, like I drink a lot less. I appreciate it. It's important. I think that.
Yeah. With me, I've had to. I come from I'm from Suriname, and so in Suriname, drinking there is different. But here in America, my father, he always had wine and beer. Like, he was, there was just always wine and beer. I never thought that it was a problem or anything. But I noticed that I was like, I'm getting a little heavy with this hand, and feeling terrible in the morning. Like, oh my God, what am I doing to myself? So I've had to become more conscious about what I consume, as far as alcohol is concerned, and food too. You just have to be mindful of the things you're consuming. But the pressures are there because New Year's, I want champagne, but if I drink champagne, I'll get so drunk and I will be throwing up in the corner. Okay, and I love champagne. I want to be a part of it. Like I want to drink it too.
Yeah,
but the champagne is like, we don't like you. But I feel
way to know.
Yeah,
I feel the pressure. I want to make merry. I want to have a good time. And but hey.
Yeah, while my alcohol consumption has gone way down, I think my marijuana consumption has gone up. Not way up, but up. And I do think if I had to pick a vice, that seems to be maybe better. It's not perfect or a healthy vice. It's a vice, I think, in a way, but it's also a it relaxes. It doesn't have the hangover, as she said. So the more I sort of write down the pluses and minuses, weed makes sense to me.
I think weed is medicinal. I think it's medicinal. I think, but what I also found out is that it impacts your dreams, and that's unfortunate. But it's, I think it's a lovely leaf.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And it helps me to kind of, once I stop drinking, it helped me to see like more of how this whole system works, the weed prohibition, it does, weed like makes people, silly, happy, loving, creative, all of these things. It relaxes you. Whereas alcohol, when you throw up, when you feel bad, that's because your body is being poisoned, and it's trying to stop you from dying by getting the poison up. And but we're taught that like, no, you should want that. You should want that. And the there's not too much regulation on it. Like it's advertised everywhere. It's kind of held up in our language as, when you want to have a heart to heart with someone, you say, I want to grab a beer with them. We've put it into our language that we should, not think of alcohol as the really dangerous substance that it is. And I see that like the government in the late 60s, they put cannabis and psilocybin, which is in magic mushrooms, in the same category as heroin. So they made it illegal. But that's because they realized that psilocybin causes ego death. You realize that we're all the same. And the government knew if there was a legal drug where people would learn that they were the same as a Vietnamese person, they would not go to a war and kill them. And so they had to make it illegal in order to make sure they made that illegal and made beer, alcohol. We'll give you that, soldiers. No health insurance for your brains, though. We are going to need you to be depressed and numbed and just keep drinking. That'll make it better. But really, I think the reason we are all so broken and sick is because it's very profitable to keep us that way.
I agree. I really agree with you. I think our state has to be maintained and managed so they can keep us at a certain space and keep them at a certain space and steering the ship wherever they want to steer the ship. We can't even have an input. So, but speaking of steering the ship, Billy, I'm so proud of both of you. But Billy, you're a animator. You create stuff, and so you have a series coming out called Breadlums. Tell us a little bit about it before I play the video.
Oh, awesome. Breadlums is a project that is now just over 2 years in the making for us. I was approached by a former coworker at CNN who is a producer on this project. He was brought in with the founders and the writers, the original writers of this thing called Breadlums. It's like a dark, gritty comedy drama where all of the characters are made out of breads. And so we follow this family of the Everything family. They are the elite bagel family. The police are made out of donuts.
So they're this Jewish family of bagels. All the cops are donuts.
The cops are donuts. We got animals are like Cheez-Its and stuff. It's really nutty, and the conversation's full of bread puns and really some interesting social commentary that we're gonna get through this crazy world and the conflicts that come from it. So we pulled in 2 years ago, started doing animation, and started to help create the characters as they had this script that they were working on. And then Sheba came on and is also one of the writers and an incredible voice actor. And so we've just been developing this, and we did a launch party the other day, and it was great.
Yeah. Let's watch a little bit of it. I think it's very clever and unique and something different. We're ready for it. I'm excited.
Well, hot
Yes. So that character was Frank. We modeled a lot of it off of different, like well-known kind of series, Gotham, The Wire, things like that. And so Frank is modeled off of this character, Bubbles from The Wire. And yeah, there's Pumpernickel.
But it reminded me of Baltimore. But I made the connection. I was like, oh, it's the whole Baltimore connection, and I thought it was very clever. And I was like, interesting. No one's ever used bread this way before. I love it. I think it's
watch out for it, yo. Yeah, you haven't even wait till the script. Those two characters you saw are just two. Right now we're at something like 50 characters. We had to do a moratorium on these different characters. Brederick Douglass is a character you'll see eventually.
Oh, I like that.
Jean-Michel Basquiat.
It's and each of these characters is really nutty and going through something, and the conflicts are really good.
Cartoon animation is such a fun way to show like the breadth of human emotion in a good way.
Yeah, but it reminds me of also Adult Swim, like those types of, because it's not for kids, right? Because I saw somebody getting fellatio and a crack pipe.
Yeah, when we were going back and forth about creating those scenes, we're so kind of, if this tells you anything about how straight-laced Billy is, someone had to tell us like the crack pipe was upside down, like we weren't, like he wasn't even smoking it right.
I had to redo the whole crack pipe thing. Yeah, it's really nutty, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited. We have a whole season planned out, and we're trying to figure out the next steps with pitching and getting people to know about Breadlums.
So who are you pitching it to? Like, where do you want to see this? Where would it?
I would love. We were talking about FX and HBO Max. These kinds of things are exciting to us. I think the streaming services are short on animation quite often, and this is very different. It's very adult, but it's gonna be intelligent as well in an interesting way. So I'm it's gonna be really good.
Yeah, and it's like
Netflix?
Netflix. That would be great.
Yeah.
Netflix, Adult Swim. You're right.
Comedy Central.
Yeah, that's how I saw. I'm like, oh, this is definitely for adults, and I can and it's it's edgy. It's what I mean. It's it takes
you get
risk,
it.
it puts you there. You're like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Have a seat. Pass me the crack pipe. No,
there we go.
Exactly. I want to show the grittiness, the absurdity of humanity through breads.
Yeah.
But not just bread, sweets. You got, because every bread has a different personality. From the muffin crossing the street, very agitated.
Exactly.
That was Brandy Muffin.
That's Brandy Muffin, correct.
The strippers are like cupcakes.
You see, I think it's very unique. So when you said 2020, January 2023 is when it's coming out?
2023.
Yeah.
2023. Okay.
Yeah. So we're taking a little break, and we're going to do one more round of edits, and then we're going to start pitching in 2023.
Fantastic. I'm really happy for you guys, and I can't wait to see it on any of the streaming services, including a Netflix, even Amazon. So
yes,
Amazon to your list. There's so many options now. So
I'd love that.
All right. Well, we have reached the end of our program, and I'm so grateful that you two have joined me today. This is Christmas Eve, and you took time out of your busy schedule after a tree fell on your car. It means a lot to me. I support all the work you do, and I am very proud to call you my friends. And I'm just grateful for the time you spend with me today. I really appreciate your insights on all these topics. And I've always admired Billy and his viewpoints on certain things, and Sheba, you as well. I love your strong woman. I love your personality and how free you are. I think it's very infectious and beautiful, and so I'm very happy we got to see you guys this morning. So thank you very much for joining me.
Jeanette, thank you.
Thank you. It's been an honor and such a pleasure.
Thank you. We will do this again.
Please.
So I would like to also thank all of those who joined us today. This is the final EPA live stream of the year, and I'm so excited that I got to take part in this. I said, let me just go ahead and get some live stream going. So I'm very, very happy that I joined. So I want to say thank you, and Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and Happy Holidays. I'm Jeanette Lenoir, and this is Our American Culture.